So in this video, I'm going to show you how to modify your GSG-16 magazine and insert it into an airsoft G&G Armament MP5 magazine housing. And this is basically going to be the final result. Now, why you'd want to do this is mostly for aesthetic reasons. As long as you note that you will lose a bit of functionality with regards to these little assisting tabs that help you load the magazine. You will lose those. However, you will gain a bit of functionality and reliability because once fully loaded, the GSG-16 magazines tend to split apart here a bit at the rear. See if you can see it flexing. So once it's inserted into the G&G mag housing, that becomes a non-issue. I have here for reference just an actual MP5 magazine, and you can see that it looks very, very close. So this is the G&G Armament Airsoft magazine. This is what it looks like. So obviously first step, take it out. And then you're going to have to remove this pin so that all the internals can come out. So with the pin out, you just go ahead and pull out the internals. Next thing, you're just going to want to remove the base plate by pushing in the tab at the front and at the back, and just use a screwdriver to pry it out. So to start, we're going to disassemble the GSG-16 magazine. First thing we'll do is use a 2.5mm Allen key and remove these assisting tabs. So the next step is removing the base plate, just using a Phillips screwdriver and removing these two screws. So now we're going to remove these two screws here using a T6 Torx bit. And then just separate it into the two halves. So now you'll see a bunch of silicone grease on the inside of the magazine. So now I'll just go ahead and remove that grease. So the next step is to use a set of digital calipers and measure the inside of the G&G Airsoft magazine. So that looks about 0.82 inches. And then you go ahead and measure the outside of your GSG-16 magazine. And again, about 0.89 inches or so. So that up equates to about 70 thousandths that has to be removed in width from your GSG-16 magazine. Split into half, do the math, and that's 35 thousandths that has to be reduced in width. And there's a few ways you can do this. I found the easiest way is just use some sandpaper and sand the outside and keep checking back and forth. Also note that when the GSG-16 magazine is inserted into the G&G magazine metal housing, that it will stick out above the metal housing slightly. So it's ideal not to sand any of this area here. So once you have that area just masked off, you can just go ahead and start sanding it. So with both halves of the magazine sanded, you're going to double check and make sure that the width is at about 0.82 inches. And then we move on to the next step, which is going to be sanding the front and the rear. So just grab a measurement of the inside of the airsoft magazine housing, and it looks like it's almost at 1.3 inches. Next, grab a measurement of the GSG-16 magazine, and it looks like it's coming at about 1.37 inches or so. So if you do the math, it's about 35 to 40 thousandths that you'll have to take from the front and then from the rear. And again, the best way to do this is just using sandpaper and checking every time. So with the front and back of the magazine sanded down, the next step is going to be making a relief cut here and here so that it clears this indentation on the airsoft magazine, and also sanding down this back rib here so that it can clear the magazine catch indentation. So there's several ways you can do this. The easiest way is just to use a Dremel with a grinding bit, but note that whatever bit you choose is just going to get loaded up with plastic pretty quickly. So with the two relief cuts made and this back area here sanded down, you can go ahead and check the fitment inside the airsoft magazine. And just for reference, the distance between the top of the airsoft magazine housing and the top of that shelf on the GSG-16 magazine should be about 0.62 inches. Now it could be a little less, but it can't be anymore. And the next step is going to be removing the plastic in these areas here to make a relief area for the bottom cap of the magazine. And then just go ahead and mark out where to remove the plastic. So with the area to be removed marked on the plastic, go ahead and remove it. I'd just like to use a coping saw for this. So now the next step is going to be getting measurements for the center of these two holes. And the distances turn out to be about 0.65 by 0.15 inches. And then just go ahead and mark those measurements on the base cap of your magazine. So with the two centers marked out, you're going to drill two holes using a 1/8 drill bit or end mill. And I recommend carbide as this steel is surprisingly strong. So now comes the final assembly of the magazine. So go ahead and clean out all the dust from sanding, and then apply some silicone grease to the inside of the magazine. This will just help the follower slide easily. And with the magazine all lubricated, go ahead and assemble it. And with the magazine screwed together, just go ahead and insert it into the airsoft magazine body. So next, go ahead and insert the follower into the magazine, followed by the magazine spring housing. And then finally, the base cap for the airsoft magazine. And then finally, screwing in these two screws into the base plate of the magazine. So now just a quick fit and function check with the dummy cartridge. Load it in. And what you want to see is that the feed lip from the magazine is flush with this steel guide right here. And go ahead and load it. And check that it fed. And looks like it fed. So now we'll go ahead and function check the magazine. Looks like it worked great. No problems.